and the conditions of the loan. In short, I need to know what you're going to be required to do if you are an ACDB seeking money from a prime contractor. The loan cannot be 100% of the capital requirements. The regulations expressly prohibit loans that are 100% of the capital requirements. And what the regulations do say is that you must contribute capital in the range of 10 to 20%. That's what the guidance provides. So those are some major issues and some major changes, frankly. The other thing that has to be in place in terms of your agreement, the term of the note can be no longer than the primary term of the concessions. So if you have a 7-year deal, your note cannot be for 9 years. The note must be for the express term of the lease. And you exclude option years from the note. You exclude option years. So I know we're kind of getting into the weeds here, but this is where we have to go because, like I said, I spent 5 days with the FAA having them go through having us pull, frankly, every joint venture that we have, doing spot audits, and these are the kinds of things that they're looking at. More importantly, and I think this is a very good development, and just tell me when I'm on time, so I don't want to overstay my welcome. But you can have no restriction on the ACDB's control of the business in terms of the note. The note cannot require that you turn over control of the ACDB's business in order to get the note. Neither can you punish the ACDBE if there is an issue with the note. You're supposed to separate those obligations. Now, the other issues that I think you should take a look at is that under the new joint venture guidance, you are required to have a clear and distinct portion of the work performed by the own forces of the joint venture partner. Now, own forces does not necessarily mean employees. Own forces means basically, based upon looking at the regulations, that as an ACDBE partner, if you have an area of responsibility and you have employees that are hired by a Hudson or a Host or Parodies, you must be in a position in that area of responsibility to hire or fire those individuals. If it's your area of responsibility, you must exercise control. And your agreement must clearly delineate a clear and distinct portion of the work that you are responsible for. And by clear and distinct portion, you cannot use the language that I've seen in reviewing all of our joint ventures. They're basically use a lot of the same language. You have a management committee, and the FAA has ruled in terms of the guidance that a management committee and a ACDBE partner being a member of that management committee does not meet the intent of the guidelines. There must be a separate subcommittee or a separate organizational structure that puts the ACDBE partner in control of a specific area. Because if he's just a member of a management committee and he has 20%, he can always be outvoted by the majority owner. So the FAA has said being a member of the management committee is not adequate. Neither can you say in describing what the ACDBE is going to do that assist, consult, those types of facilitate, those types of responsibility determinations cannot be measured, and they are too vague in terms of what that responsibility is in order for us to calculate, to measure it, to document it, and calculate it. And that is a major change in terms of what we have to do. And it is also a major change in what you need to do in terms of these joint venture relationships. It is clear to me from looking at the regulations that passive investment, frankly, is a thing of the past. That is my personal opinion, but in looking at the regulations, you cannot be in a situation where you are simply a monetary investor in this particular project or concessions. Go home, receive a check on a quarterly basis, and expect to receive ACDBE credit for that. Now, that doesn't mean that if you want to be a financial investor and you want to take that route, that is perfectly acceptable for those of you who are in the position to do that. But you will not receive ACDBE credit if you choose that route. Because the airport is required not only to look at your responsible area, but we're also required to determine if that responsibility is commensurate with your ownership interest. So you need to show us that that interest is commensurate with your ownership interest. So you need to show us that back office inventory management or inventory control is worth 15 or 20% of the JV. Or the preference in the regulations is for a separate location to be managed by the ACDBE partner, because that separate location is a clear, distinct, defined portion of work that we can definitely put our hands around. The vaguer that description is in terms of responsibilities, the less likely you are to meet the intent of the guidelines. How am I doing on time? Okay, I need to wrap it up. There are, you have to be at risk, so I'm just going to cover profit and risk must be commensurate with your interests. And then let me point out something that really came as a shock to me in going through the regulations, and then I'll sit down. Service fees, management fees cannot be used as a way to siphon off the profits of the JV. They have to be reasonable. And we have to evaluate whether or not those service fees and those management fees are appropriate. If you are required to purchase your goods and services from the prime contractor, those must be at cost plus the reasonable cost of providing the goods. There cannot be a markup on those services. And the ACDBE partner is supposed to be in a position where they can go to a third party and purchase goods and services. So with that, I will step down and allow the next speaker to step up. I really encourage you to sit down, take a day, read through the guidance.